Welcome to the WillPower podcast, where we uncover the secrets of success and share the wisdom of exceptional individuals. I'm your host, William Gomez, and as a real estate professional, I bring you insights from the world of real estate and beyond. Join me as I engage in captivating conversations with incredible guests from diverse backgrounds and industries, from top real estate moguls to trailblazing entrepreneurs and influencers. We dive into the mindsets and habits of successful people. If you love what you hear, don't forget to rate and review. Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and enlightened. Live life today on WillPower. So you've been with your wife for 8 years, and even like I've known you since 2012, 2011. Like,
not crazy.
I don't even feel like we've changed at all.
No,
you know what I mean? Like I just look at you but with the kid is different, because a kid, you're seeing this baby like grow. Like I looked at a 2-month difference of Maverick, and I was like, dang, he looks so different.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy. But congratulations on Bodie, right?
You too. Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. Taylor, I'm so glad to have you here, man. I don't know if you knew, but we started a new podcast. It's called The Real Deal Podcast. I'm co-hosting it with Alfredo Madrid, and we're bringing in just real estate agents and loan officers just to kind of, learn from them, and then also just anybody listening that's in the business, they're able to kind of learn from them as well. And so last week we had your dad. He was episode number 3, and
that's awesome.
Man, I'm excited to get into your story, because it took you a little while to kind of get into the real estate business, but then you finally did, and you joined your dad, who's been doing it since, I believe he said 2005.
Yeah, he's closing in on 20 years.
Dang. And so yeah, man, people that haven't heard your name, give us a little 1-minute introduction.
Yeah. So it's Taylor Zinn, Realtor with Engel Volkers Tulsa. Like you said, it took me a while to get into the game, but definitely happy I'm jumped ship from the fitness industry. And honestly, I've been in sales for pretty much the majority of my professional career, but really happy and blessed to be alongside my dad. I know that working with family can be a challenge sometimes, but it's been nothing but incredible. Do you think that if COVID would have never happened, just because anybody listening, his story, you were a personal trainer, which is one of the things we have in common, as far as I actually was a personal trainer, like right the time that we met, shortly after that, for a couple of years. Dude, I couldn't ever do it because it kind of took the joy of me working out. Did you ever feel like that? Oh, it's so easy to get burned out in that business, because the difference with lending and real estate and all these other opportunities, you can do that from home in certain instances.
Yeah.
But training, that's in person all day long. And to make decent money, you got to be there all day.
Yeah. I remember we were going to the same gym at the same time time. And every time I'd be there, I feel like I see you all the time.
Yeah.
And so, but at least with whether you're working from home or whether you're at the office, if you're having a stressful day, like you can go do something, like go work out, and it feels like a relief, as opposed to if you're having a stressful day training people, you're like, I feel like I'm still stressed if I go work out, because like I'm still surrounded by the same thing.
You're tired of looking at the same walls all day,
Yeah.
You're just like, I need a break.
So do you think that so COVID happened, and that's kind of what forced you, and I kind of got talking to your dad, and I was like, did you want him to work with you? And he was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you were pretty much forced because of COVID. You had just gotten a promotion.
Essentially. So it's a wild story. So
tell me a little bit about that.
Yes. So, I'll start from the beginning. So I started off young. I was maybe, 21. I think I was 21, and built myself up to where I was the number 1 trainer at the South facility where we used to work out at all the time. Shortly after that, I got offered a management position at our newer facility, which was in Broken Arrow. And that sales team was kind of struggling. It was a lot of newer trainers who didn't have a ton of experience. So I was able to go in there. We 5X'd the monthly revenue inside of 6 months. So we were just killing it. And then COVID shortly after that. So
I was only there for 6 months.
I was there for
Broken Arrow.
At Broken Arrow for almost 2 years.
Oh, okay. You were there for a couple of years there.
Yeah.
So how long were you there? Were you at Sky overall, which is not even Sky anymore, but
about 7 years.
7 years.
I loved it, man. I loved it. It shaped me in a lot of ways. It kind of opened my eyes to the sales world, because you come in green and You know, you're super excited. You think you're going to have all these clients fall into your lap, and then you learn very quickly that, oh no, I have to hustle for this. This is a
job. Said you were the number one trainer. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean in sales, or does that mean in like actually like training and transforming people from like either losing weight or whatever?
So it goes hand in hand, hopefully, right? Now, every trainer there is super talented, super knowledgeable. So I was amongst the best trainers in Tulsa, in my opinion. And we all help change people's lives. But when I say number one, it was just in reference to sales.
Okay. And then, so how does it go as far as, because I never really think about it, especially it's like a gym like Sky, like for example, I just figure people come in and they're like, I want a trainer, and then they just set you up with somebody. Like, were you like making calls? Were you having to go out there and be like, dude, I need more clients? Because if anything, I felt like a lot of the really good trainers are already overbooked and they don't even have any more time.
Exactly. Well, then you just start funneling people into groups, which is what I started doing once I got more established. Is now it's not doing one-on-one so much, but now I'm training groups of 10. Right? Because that's the only way you can really scale.
Yeah.
In training is you just start filling your hours with more people.
Man, right? Leveraging your time there. I love that.
Yeah. So we had some trainers, man, that would get there at 5 a.m. They'd be done by noon.
Yeah.
And they're making a great career out of it.
Dang. So you've been in real estate now for 3 years?
That's right.
3 years.
Yep.
So walk me through your time as far as you've had a lot of success really quickly, and especially in this down market that a lot of people are struggling. And yesterday, I had a call with an agent. She's, I think she'll finish the year at around 4 million, which is not horrible for the market we're in, especially where we're at in like our Tulsa market, really. Yeah. And, you know, she said, hey, I had to go and get a job. And I'm like, part-time or what? Because I've already had to talk some people off the ledge. Yep. Because I'm like, okay, if you go and make $16 an hour and you're only working 20 hours a week, you know, you only need X, you know, 2, 3, 4 deals to get that time back and actually put it back in to your business and be able to not have to worry about that. But, you know, she's like, no, it's full time. So it's been a year. So, walk me through you starting with your dad and just kind of like, how do you feel that you've gotten like the success that you've had?
No, I love that. So obviously it was a big learning curve. So I came in with a background in sales. Obviously I've been selling for around 7 years, but very different product. I was selling training packages, not, you know, $100, sometimes $1 million homes, which is very different.
Yeah.
So I had to be a student of the game first. So obviously in my dad, I'd been around the business for a very long time, and he's a great teacher. So I was able to learn a ton from him in terms of contracts and just enough to make me feel confident in what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I felt like my sales background and my ability to connect with people, because genuinely, I just want to help. I want to help people make the best decision. Same for you, right? You just want to help people get into their homes.
Exactly.
And there's so many people out there who just don't have the information that they need. Even in a down market that we're in right now.
100%.
What's the number one thing you hear when you talk to people? Oh, the rates are too high.
Yeah.
Right?
But they don't realize that come springtime when rates drop, and that's like kind of like opening season for us, really. Like, we're never off season, but you know, the winter time, which it's crazy. I mean, we just talked on Monday you know, I kept telling my team, I'm like, hey, this winter's probably going to be really cold, like a cold winter. Like, and then we come in December, we're going to have the best month we've ever had for the year.
That's awesome.
And so I think it's all like a mindset, how you prepare yourself and what work you're willing to put in. Because yesterday I had a rep come in for one of the private mortgage insurance companies that we work with. And, you know, we were going through a bunch of people that I thought were still top producers. And this year they're having, on the loan officer side of things, and this year they're having a rough year. And she's like, Will, but she's like, I met a guy that he had to pull money from his 401k, sell his boat, but he's still not wanting to do the work. And it's like, what more do you, like, your back is against the wall.
Yeah. It's baffling to me because everybody has their own, I think, threshold of pain that they're willing to endure until they make a change.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a saying out there, it's a quote, I don't know who says it, but basically everybody sucks until they don't.
Yeah.
And it's a harsh truth, but that's a conversation that I have with myself every day. to make sure I'm doing the things that I know a lot of people may not be willing to do.
Are you satisfied where you're at? Not satisfied, but like, are you happy where you're at right now in your career right now?
I'm happy, yeah, but satisfied, not even close.
Yeah, that's
not even close.
That's one of my biggest struggles. Like I mean, it's kind of bad, but I'm just like never happy. Like as far as like, I'm just like right now, you know, we were going in from November and I was looking at December and I was like, man, like I can't believe that we're going to have this month, but it's really not a thing until they close. Right now we've closed half of our pipeline for this month. So it's like, you know,
it's fantastic.
And but then I went into December not being very happy because of, you know, we had 0 on the board for January and now we have a few for January and I'm like, I have 0 for February. It's just like,
but let me tell you something about that. Cause that's the key to success, right? What you just said is you can have, cause this happened to me this year too. I had the best month I've ever had and, you know, one of the best months that our team has ever had.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, aren't you just stoked? Like, isn't this awesome? I'm like, yeah, it's awesome. But I'm not getting that same joy because I'm already looking 2, 3, 4 months ahead. I'm already thinking about the winter.
Yeah.
And how to stack it. But that's how I've been able to maintain.
So I tell people that all the time. I say that I have like a double-edged sword, and that double-edged sword on the front end, which is, you know, if it's an actual sword, it helps you fight. For me, it helps me grind and it helps me hustle and it helps me get deals in.
Yep.
But then the other side of it that could, you know, come back and stab you is that I look at people that are doing a lot less and they're a lot happier. And then sometimes I kind of get a little envious of that. I'm just like, man, why can't I be happy?
Yeah.
But I look at them and I'm like, dude, I would never want to, I would would be miserable if I was doing that, you know. But I was just curious on that because I feel like everybody is different. And I mean, the other day I was talking to Alfredo and he was telling me, he was like, dude, there's very little people that can relate to you just because you're just like somewhere else.
You're always reaching for more, right?
Yes. And you and I are a lot alike. And I was curious to ask you, especially with you. How old are you?
29. I'll be 29 this year. Yeah.
Dude, I got like pretty much close to a month left in my 20s. It's a little daunting for me.
Isn't that a weird feeling?
I know.
And it's not that 30s, you know, old by any means, right?
Yeah.
It's not that.
I think it's that competitive in me. I'm just like, what more could have I achieved? Because one of the biggest things one of the biggest fears I have is that I die, I go to heaven, and God says, meet William, the person that you could have been.
Yeah.
And he's like, you did 80% of that, or you did 60% of that, or even you did 90% of that. Like, I'm not going to be satisfied unless I did 100% of that. And you just hear all these people that are doing these amazing things at a young age. And I'm like,
you see it everywhere.
I know. And
20 years old, multimillionaire. You get online and it's going to be posted up everywhere.
I know. So, and with social media, with all this kinds of stuff, it's becoming easier and easier to get there at a much younger age. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's unprecedented, right? The ability to market yourself now for free through social media.
100%.
And there's a lot of people that don't do it. I think you're one of the best at it.
I appreciate that, man.
You're so consistent.
You have to be.
That's what I struggle with, right? I'll do, you know, a couple months where I'm like really into it. I'm like, yeah, this is great. And then I get super busy and, you know, family life, which you understand. I'm like, oh, I'm going to take some time off. And that's a killer. So that's one of my biggest goals for next year is to maintain consistency in all areas.
Yeah. I've actually was wanting to find a like an accountability partner type of thing.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, Nate will tell you, I look really like everybody sees this, but every time we film Nate, I'm just not like the happiest person. I'm like, I just want to get this done. And then that's after the hard part's done, which is the content, you know?
Yeah.
So right now I'm like, dude, I need to get some stuff going, but it's harder without that accountability. And,
100%,
you know,
man.
And that goes same in business. So how do you keep yourself accountable when it comes to your business and what you're doing on a day-to-day?
Got a family to feed.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, man. And my family saved my life 100%. I mean, I was a pretty selfish guy growing up, particularly when I was in the fitness industry. I was still with my wife now, but at the time, I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of bills. So I was just really focused on, I just want to have fun with her.
Yeah.
And everything else is going to fall to the wayside. But once we had kids, And it's so cliche because everybody says that, well, you'll understand once you have them, but it's so true.
I agree with that. Everybody told me that, and I just kind of rolled my eyes type of thing.
Yeah, you do that. And then you see that baby boy, the baby girl, and you're like, okay, I've got to become a man now. Like, no more playing around. And truthfully, that's what did it for me.
Is there anything else that keeps that you do to keep yourself accountable, like at work?
Yeah. So I look at people who are doing more than me, like you said, like guys like you, for example, like you're working out super early in the morning. You have a baby, you have a wife, you've got a killer business in the mortgage industry, and you're growing social media. So it's like, okay, like let me look at people who are doing what I want to do and allow that to motivate me and show that, okay, my excuses don't matter.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And one of my most favorite things that has been on having a kid has been that people can't say, well, you don't have any kids, so that's why you can wake up at 4 a.m. and go work out. Yep. And I'm like, dude.
Isn't that interesting? Because I think people, they see guys like you who are doing that, and it waking something up in them that they don't want to awaken. They're like, okay, wait, that is possible? No.
But there's excuses for everything, dude. And I think that I even still come up with excuses with certain things that I like, I sat down and did my business plan, and I looked and like, I was like, what's something that I want to get better at? And I said, I want to be more consistent. Yeah. And I was telling Alfredo that, and he goes, dude, you're already really consistent. And I was like, no, but it's just not, I think it can be more consistent. Cause dude, I still wake up in the morning and I'm like, I really don't want to get up right now. Yeah. And then I kind of have to like mentally slap myself, because I'm just like, that's me waking up and thinking something negative right away. Yeah. And then so I'm just like, no, like I get to get up today. Like I hate running. I'm going to run my first marathon next month. And the reason why I'm doing it is because earlier this year, I couldn't even walk. I ruptured my Achilles, and I was like, man, it's all like, I was like, it's all downhill from here. But once again, you mentally slap yourself and you're like, no, like, why do you have to think? Everybody's like default is just negative. I just don't know why.
I don't understand it either, but you pointed out something really good that I hope people can catch on, and it's your mindset.
100%.
If it's one thing, you're asking me, how do I stay motivated? How do I stay accountable? Mindset.
So what are some things besides with mindset, and what are some things that you are doing, like activities, to be able to not only get the leads, because that's the most important part, but people forget you have to get the leads, and then you have to convert them to approved, right? Because there could be 10 people here that raise their hands and say, I want to buy a house. And then you and I get so excited. We're like, we'd love to help you. Yep. And then they come over to me and fill out an application. They're not approved. And then you're like, well, crap. Out of these 9, I can only help 1. Yeah. So you got to get them approved. Then you got to find them a house. Yep. And then you go under contract. And that's where most agents are like happy-go-lucky. They're already cashing their check. And there's so much, even in the most smooth deals, there's so much that can go wrong.
100%, man.
It takes 35 to 40 people to close one deal. Well, depending of how many agents there are, depending if there's a lender, there's all these people. So there's something that can go wrong at all times.
Absolutely.
And then you go to the closing table, and heck, even at that, I've heard horror stories that even at the closing table, it can go downhill. So 100%. What are some activities that you do that you are to do what you're doing, like the production that you're doing?
So for me, it's about getting better every single day. And I'll break that down into different aspects that I try to work on. So training in terms of how I talk to people and how I can better serve people. Because ultimately that's what our job is, right? Yeah, sure, everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to produce more. But if you don't have a heart for people, and you don't genuinely care about your clients, you're never going to get anywhere. I don't care how much you spend on training or, how good you look, whatever it is, you're never going to get anywhere, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I try to educate myself every day on the market. I try to educate myself every day on people and what they're after, right? And I'm plugging into people who've been doing it a lot longer than me, who've done way more than me, and I'm trying to learn everything I can from them, because like we talked about with social media, we have all this information at our fingertips. I can learn anything I want to on YouTube. 100%. Right? If I put the time in though, and I've got to set aside that time. So I'm either staying up later at night after the kids are in bed and I'm doing that, or I'm waking up earlier in the morning, but I'm doing that every single day. Not
every single day.
Every day I'm training.
What are you like watching on YouTube and stuff? And what are you doing like as part of that training?
Yeah. So I'll watch just different guys that are in that coaching space. So like Alex Hormozy is a big one.
Yeah.
Just watch how he breaks things down in such simple terms is amazing to me. I'll watch guys like Andy Elliott, who's just, I don't know if you've seen him, but he's blowing up right now. He's like wildfire.
Andy Elliott. It sounds really familiar. I probably have seen him, but I would probably see him if recognize him if I saw him.
He's a little rough around the edges. Like you'll see when you talk, he's a used car salesman is what he came from, and now he's got this massive.
I know exactly. He wears his shirts like really tight, and then he tucks them in. Yeah, he always yeah.
You see him, you're like, well, who's this? Who's this guy?
No,
looks like such a tool,
I know exactly
right?
who that is. Yeah,
but then when if you listen to him, like he has some really really good information in there just about how to communicate, because ultimately that's what we're really getting paid for is communication, and if you don't know how to master that. And not in terms of manipulation, but really get to understand what people are after, I think is so important. So
100%.
That's what I'm really diving into right now. My faith as well. So I'm doing a devotional every day just to keep me grounded. I know everybody has their own beliefs, but I think if you can submit to some type of higher power, higher calling, and understand that the only thing you can really do is better yourself. You can't control everything.
Dude, I listen to all these podcasts, and even people that don't claim a religion, they're like, man, I just like, I pray every morning and I do this and they don't want to admit that they're, they have any sort of type of faith or they believe in any sort of type of God. But it's so crazy how even people that don't want to admit that it still brings so much peace. This year will be the first year or the first time that I'll have read the entire Bible. And it's been something that I'm awesome. Like, talk about consistency. When I feel that I'm not as consistent, it's in different things of my life because to me, it's easy being consistent in certain things.
Yep.
But what about everything else?
Exactly.
So that's going to be a huge accomplishment for me this year. And, but that's really cool to hear you say that too, because people don't really, that's why I'm like trying to get into your head. I'm like, I'm trying to like really figure out like, what does it take to have that mindset that you're talked about?
Yeah, well, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. So I'm glad that this is where the conversation's heading. So for me, obviously faith is huge for me, but in terms of the self-development, right, which I think is just as important in terms of when you're trying to grow your business, because your business is only going to be as good as you are.
100%.
And if you're not developing every day, well, guess what? Your business isn't developing every day. And your relationships with your family is not getting better every day. And I think one of the biggest lies that people believe is you can't have it all. And and what I mean by that is you can't have a $1 million plus business and have a great relationship with your wife and kids and have a good relationship with God or all these other things. You can absolutely have it all, but you have to work
super hard.
It's hard every day. There's no days off. But if you can fall in love with that process, which I feel like I have. I mean, I look forward every day to learning and getting better. And if you can get obsessed with learning and get obsessed with self-improvement, you're unstoppable.
Do you think that you get obsessed really easy with stuff?
Oh, I've had an addictive personality since I can remember.
Okay.
So I have to be very careful.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. So, and it's funny because literally every person that I meet, it's sort of like the same thing. Mm-hmm. But it's funny though that you can meet people that are like, okay, that person, they're kind of like me, and I can kind of see how they're wired like that.
Yep.
But then there's people like your dad. Like your dad is wired completely different, and he's been able to be a top producer for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think that the biggest difference, it goes back to mindset.
Yeah.
And then also believing in something higher than you, and then your the sources that everybody believes it's your source, because when you put all your eggs in that basket, it's a lot harder to see past that and beyond that. Like if 100%. Everything is telling you like, hey, there's no way you're going to make it through the week. You only have $10 in your bank account, and you don't have a gas to get to work. Like you're just like, this is impossible. Like I can't do that.
Yep.
But if you truly believe and have faith, which faith and fear are the same thing, you're believing something that you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And then I think that's why that helps so much as well. But it's just mind blowing to me seeing like just so many different people. But to me, it's the most fun to talk to people that are kind of like wired the same.
Yeah.
You know, would you say your wife's like complete opposite of you?
I think we're similar in a lot of ways.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So we both grew up in athletics. So she was a gymnast. She ended up actually injuring her back late into her career in high school, but she would have gone on to be D1. She was really, really good. So she has that discipline already kind of instilled in her, similar to me, which you grew up the same. We played football together. Yeah. So I think we're pretty similar in that regard. And she attacks the same way I attack my business in motherhood. So she gets obsessed with, okay, I'm going to make these kids feel like they are just the luckiest kids in the world, right? So every day I come home from work or whatever it is, and they're having fun, and you know, the house is taken care of. I mean, she attacks just the same way. And she gets obsessed with whatever is in front of her. So we both have to be careful about, okay, yeah, let's make sure we have the right things in front of us, right? And if we can stay consistent with that, we're going to be okay.
That's pretty impressive that you guys are able to make it work with being so alike, because me and my wife are complete opposites. Yeah. And I feel that every person that, or every couple that we hang out with, it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, yeah. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm like, we're alike, they're alike. Yep. And, but you know, it's kind of like that saying, opposites attract. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So, what are some things that you like to do? I'm assuming you're still working out, you know, regularly.
Oh yeah.
So, but what are some other things that you like to do to kind of like refresh, restart?
Yeah. So no, honestly, my devotional is one of my favorite things. I'm going through right now. It's the Kingdom Man is what I'm going through. I'm almost finished with that, and it's been amazing. And it's quick. It's like 10 minutes. Yeah. You know, but it's that self-reflection that it always puts me into a right headspace of, what am I working towards? What am I struggling with? What do I need to surrender? What do I need to do to get better? So that is one of my favorite things outside of working out. It's kind of a different form of meditation, and I can do it quick. So if I'm really struggling one day, sometimes I might do it more than once, right? Just to have that quiet time. Another thing, it's going to sound funny, but I really enjoyed driving.
Really? That's one thing we're opposites in, bro.
Well, and it was kind of learned. So we just moved back out to South Tulsa, but we were living essentially in Coweta for almost about 3.5 years. So I'm used to driving 30, 40 minutes to get anywhere. Yeah. Right. So in that's when I would do like podcasts and, you know, YouTube videos, whatever I could in that time frame to make it productive. Audiobooks is a big one. So that's something I really look forward to. And now that I'm living closer, I've kind of lost that, the driving, but I'm feeling it in other areas. It's
funny because when I have people in my car, I'll like turn some, it's like quiet, and then people will be like, man, do you not listen to music? And I'm like, no, I literally only listen to like audibles or podcasts, just because, I mean, what does music do for me? Like, unless it has to have a purpose.
I get it, man.
So like in the morning, every single morning I listen to a thing called Darren Daily. Yeah. And it's Darren Hardy, and it's like every single morning he sends you an email at 3 a.m. and it's a video anywhere between a minute to 8 minutes long. Every single morning is different. And it's just, it talks about just all different types of things to be able to put your life in perspective. And it's like, how can I become better? Yeah. So every single morning, if I'm driving to the gym, which lately my mornings have looked a little different because I have to go run to train for this thing. Yeah. But I'll play it as I'm on my way to the gym. And as soon as it's over, I have like enough time for like a song or not even two, like 1.5 songs. Yeah. And for me, I'm like trying to get pumped up to go work out. Yep. But that's the only time music, and I guess unless you're like at a party, I guess, and it's kind of just like good background noise, but I don't know. And I mean, I used to do it. I used to have music all the time when I was driving, but I'm just like, that doesn't serve me a purpose. No,
and it's funny you said that because I'm literally the same way. Like, you get in there, my Spotify is just audiobook, podcast.
What are some of your favorite like books and podcasts?
Yes, Miracle Morning, one of my favorites.
I never heard of that.
I'll let you borrow it. Okay. It's amazing. It's amazing. That's what really got me into that self-reflection. And there's a whole process. I won't get into it because I'll completely butcher it. You've got to hear it from the author. Okay. But it's
Miracle Mornings.
Miracle Morning. I'm gonna bring it to you. Okay. I'm telling you, it's a quick read, but really powerful in terms of your mindset and how it can shift. This guy's an amazing story. And Think and Grow Rich is another one, classic.
Oh yeah.
Which I'm sure you've read that one.
I read that one.
But those are probably my top two that I just consistently go back to.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Dude, I love Ed Milet. You ever listen to Ed Milet?
Legend.
Dude, he gets me riled up every time.
Legend. Yeah.
Dude, and I'm sure you've listened to some of his podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, the way that I don't even know. Like, he makes me feel like I'm just like this little shrimp guy. He's just like,
you need that though.
Yeah,
you got to stay grounded, right? Because no matter how successful you are, there's always somebody coming to take your spot if you're not trying to get better.
Dude, I'm constantly reevaluating myself between the 5 people that I'm closest to in each area. Yeah. So like at the gym, I'm like, who are the top 5 people that I'm closest to, that I'm talking to?
Yep.
And I'm like, I need to make sure that I am like either in the middle of the pack or the weakest to be able to keep growing stronger in business. Yep. Who am I surrounded with the most?
Yep.
You know, in outside of business, just because it's so easy to take that for granted. And next thing you know, if you truly are the average of the 5 people that you're hanging out with, you could be ripped with 6-pack and you're hanging out with a bunch of people that are overweight. Like, that's the average, is you really not being that fit. Right?
Yeah.
Or when you could be a millionaire and you're hanging out with people that don't have any money, like, you're not really a millionaire. So I'm constantly thinking about that all the time, dude.
It's huge. Well, and there's a quote out there. I forget who it's by, but it's one of my favorites. And I don't want to paraphrase. The greatest waste of time is justifying your actions to people who have lives that you don't want.
Dude, I've never heard that. That's so good.
It's so good. And I heard that literally just a few days ago. It's so true. Like, how often do we do that? Like, how often do we say, I'm going to go, and this is something I'll just be totally transparent that I've struggled with a lot, is I'll, get social media ideas together and get my content together. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go post this. And then I'm like, well, I don't want people to think I'm annoying or like that pushy sales guy. So maybe I won't do that. But the people that are going to tell me that are people who are living lives that I don't really have any interest in.
That's so good.
But like guys like you, like, I would love to be as successful as you are at some point in my career. Right. So I would rather have you be like, no, man, this is awesome. Like, this is what you need to do, which you've told me before. So those are the people you need to listen to, is where you want to go.
A lot of the times people that are telling you like, why would you do that? Is for one, is because they want to do it and they don't have the guts to do it. Mm-hmm. Or they're just like, at the end of the day, people are in different levels. I mean, and we need that in a way in order to be able to function as a society.
100%.
Because I just watched a Netflix, dude, one of my biggest pastimes, I don't know, pastimes are like to de-stress is, dude, I love watching TV.
Yeah,
like I love, and people, I know it's funny because a lot of people that I ask, I'm like, hey, have you seen this show? Yeah. They're like, I don't watch TV. I feel like a lot of people, that's like a flex for them. I don't know. For me,
I watch a lot. We watch a lot.
I watch so much TV, and I just watch. It just kind of refreshes my mind. Like, I'm just like, okay, like, I'm not stressed anymore or whatever. And I just watched a documentary. I love documentaries, and this was narrated and produced by Barack Obama.
Okay.
It's called, I got to go back and see what it's called, but it's pretty much takes you through every episode of each different level of income and class. So it starts out with the lady that's like making like $9 an hour, and then Barack Obama goes grocery shopping with her, and she's grabbing cereal, and a box of cereal is like $7. And she's like, it's taking me pretty much an hour to be able to buy a box of cereal. And it just put things in so much perspective for me. And then the next episode, it's like, okay, hey, this is like what the middle class used to be, but it's really not the middle class, because it just talked about how the average income in the United States has really not moved that much since like back in like the 80s and 90s.
So true.
But inflation, especially in housing.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, a house used to cost $30,000.
Yeah.
You can't even get a really nice car for $30,000 now.
No, you couldn't even get this room that we're sitting in right now for $30,000. Yeah.
And then it goes to the next level. It's like, okay, these are the people that are like in the high end middle class, but they don't feel like it. They're just like, they don't feel like that.
Everybody's stressed.
Yeah. And then it's like, and then this is like the CEOs of the companies. Mm-hmm. Dude, it was, I loved watching that.
I need to watch it.
In order to be able to try to like see people's perspective, and and it's good. I mean, that's part of the reason why I love doing the podcast, is because I'm able to kind of like see people, like, how do people view life? Because sometimes we're so focused on, we talk, you hear about people having their blinders on in order to be able to focus on your goals and what you're supposed to do. And it's hard to do that, but it's really easy to have your blinders on just the way that you view life. Like, you're like, man, the business is slow right now because everybody is saying that, or because I feel that way, because my bank account is telling me that. But it's like, well, what if I talk to a couple other people, a couple other loan officers, a couple other people in the industry, and hear their perspective, to be able to see like truly what reality is,
Reality is what you make it, right? Which sounds easier than it is in reality, but I truly believe the people that you have around you it's crucial to your success. Like, I want to be around guys like you and people on our team who, regardless of market conditions, regardless of what's going on in the world, we're going to kill it. I believe that.
Yeah. You have to get creative, man.
You have to. Well, and something to realize too, is if you're an agent or a lender and you're listening to this and you're struggling, know that that's the average person. Everyone right now is thinking the market's slow, I'm not going to get business. So they're not getting business, because that's what they're waking up and telling themselves every day. So what do you expect is going to happen? So that's why I get so passionate. And now I'm really blessed to have gotten my promotion this year to where now I'm running our sales team and help get people motivated every week. That, listen, it does. I don't care what's happening right now.
Motivating others motivates me.
Same. That's really where my passion lies. Like, going back to the gym, I was most fulfilled developing that training team who really just didn't have anybody that was consistently believing in them and pouring into them. Like, hey, you guys can do this, but you need a plan, and here's the plan. Yeah. And if you put the work in, guarantee success.
What do you think your biggest, or a couple of your biggest fears are?
Failure of one, for sure.
Failure of what?
I think failing as a man. So what I will say when I say that is not just in business, but falling short of my potential as a father, as a husband, as a son, and ultimately as a realtor, right? Because I'm not just working at a company that I don't have any ties to. Like, this is something that my dad's built, so I feel like I have a lot to live up to. And he's not the type that is prone to hand out. So that's what a lot of people would assume, and I totally get it, because I would think the same thing. Oh, it's your dad's business, he's just going to hand you all the leads. Like, no, the guy still sells. He'll do over 10 million this year just himself, and he's running the company. So he still wants to.
What will you end up the year at?
I'll be right around 12.
Dang, so you got your pops by 2. He did say to both of us, he said, I truly believe Taylor's a better realtor than I am.
Oh, he said that?
Yeah.
He didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
And then he said he said that you're the best realtor he's ever like known as well too.
I'm very humbled by that, man. That means a lot coming from him, for real.
It's weird because it can be both ends. It can be like, oh, of course he would say that, that's his son. Or it could be like, wow, like, that's his son. So because I think that somebody in your dad's position constantly has to be thinking, how can I not favor my son?
Yeah.
And how can this not look this way?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's tough. It's tough on him. I don't envy that position at all, because you're trying to also, like I am, develop our team, and you'd never want them to think, because as soon as they think, oh, he's getting handouts, they're done. It's never going to go anywhere. And as they should, right? If that's the kind of culture we're cultivating, I wouldn't blame anyone for not wanting to be a part of that. But
how old is he?
So he is going to be 58.
58.
Yeah.
So do you think he'll ever retire? Like fully get out?
Not fully. It's not that he just doesn't have it in him. And I mean that in a good way. Like, I think he's put in so much work over the years that he's not going to be able to just shut that off.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want him to. I want him to be involved, because he's still a resource for me. I still go to him almost every day.
How long do you think he'll be until, like, you, let's say he's still a part of it, but you're pretty much fully taken over the whole thing?
I think as soon as we develop our sales team to where we don't want to grow in terms of we're going to have 1,000 agents and 1% of those are going to produce and the other ones are going to sell one house a year. That's never been our vision. We've always wanted something smaller, but to where every agent has the life that they want. and not just in their business, but with their families, with their friends, with whatever it is that they're interested in. We want them to be the best version of themselves. So we approach it a lot differently than other companies will. Like I want to know you. I want to know your family. I want to know how we can help you develop into the absolute best.
Yeah.
Not just salesperson, but just best person.
Yeah. And it's hard too, because we talked a little bit about the advantages and also of joining a team, and then also the mindset that some people have of like, why would I ever join a team? Like I'm not going to get paid full commission.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the amount of times that I've told agents 100% or even 80%, but let's say 100% of nothing is still nothing as well. Right.
Absolutely.
So, but it's hard to kind of, you know, get people started there, and then they've gained some confidence and they're like, all right, I'm going out on my own. Right. So it's a never ending cycle that it's a little harder to manage there.
It is.
What is the besides you and your dad, what's the second person? What are they producing this year for the end of the year?
No, so I'm glad you brought this up. So she's actually one of our newer agents. This is going to be her first year, and she's going to end up, I believe, around $4 million.
$4 million.
She's working a couple deals right now that she's hoping could add to her production that are going to close early this month. So it'll kind of depend, but if that happens, she'll definitely be at 4. So
how do you still stay motivated outside of everything we've talked about with seeing like, okay, you have your dad right, kind of right behind you, but then you have the next person. Cause I mean, it always helps. I mean, if you told me like, hey, I'm doing 12, my dad's doing 10, and we have another guy that's like at 11.5, right?
Yeah.
And it'd be a little easier to be like, dude, what do we need to do to make sure that we, you know, do not get beat? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do you get the I mean, because you're a competitive guy. Like I'm super competitive.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I always have to get really creative, just because the people that are surrounding you, even the people you work with, sometimes it's like, you know, kind of the scales are a little different. So how do you still keep that competitive edge?
So one, I don't want to compete with anyone but myself. And I want to beat the version of myself that woke up yesterday. And if I do that, I truly believe that my business will grow exponentially every single year. My goal was 10 million this year. I'm going to beat that by 2 million. I did less than 8 million the year prior. So I'm going to keep building. My goal is to double my income next year, double the production, which I can do if I stay consistent. But for me, how I stay on that track outside of that is the team, because I feel responsible for every agent we have. I feel responsible for my dad and for the company and building it into the company that we know it will be. So that is enough motivation for me to stay on fire every single day. And I know that if I fall off, that team's looking at me as the leader, and I lead by example. It's always been the way that I am. Yeah. So if I'm not making my calls every day, I'm not converting, I'm not selling, why should they listen to me?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to listen to me because I'm not doing what I'm telling them to do. I think as a leader, you can never ask your team or anyone under you to be what you're not.
100%. And there's a lot of quote unquote leaders, we'll just call them managers, that want to tell people what to do when they're not doing it, or they used to do it even.
Yeah. Well, that's it's it right there. You get to this point, I feel like in any career, where you feel like you've made it, right? And then you just turn everything off and you just tell everybody else what to do. And that's not going to get anybody fired up.
Let's go back to your training days.
Yeah.
It's like, let's say did you ever get into bodybuilding?
I did one competition. I did one. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. I mean, ultimately not for me. It kind of took the joy out of it for me, to be honest.
I never got into it, even though a lot of people around me were doing it, but I'm glad I didn't. But let's say you did get hardcore into it and you were this, like, you know, this ripped up dude that, you know, won all these trophies and everything. And then you just get burned out and you're like, all right, I'm done with that career.
Yep.
And then you see it all the time. A lot of bodybuilders that just turn fat.
Yeah.
And then but you've been a trainer this entire time.
Yep.
And you're still training people.
Yeah.
And telling them, like, this is how you need to get skinny.
Yeah.
But you're fat.
Yeah.
How and that does happen, dude.
It happens at every gym.
Yeah. But I don't understand. I don't even know who's more to blame, the fat personal trainer or the person that's taking that person's advice.
Yeah.
But that happens in business all the time. It you just don't get the visual.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? You don't want to follow people who don't have the life that you want, right? So you have to go out and seek those people actively. You're not just going to find them by chance. You'll get lucky with a couple, but you've got to go find those people.
Yeah.
That are living the life that you want to model, not just in business, but in everything. And those are the people you want to get close to. And those are the people you want to learn from.
Yeah. And I think outside of motivating people, helping motivate you, it's accountability, because there's really no other way to lead but other than example.
100%.
So that keeps you accountable right there. Man, one of the things that I like to ask people, which, by the way, man, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I really have. I really appreciate you for coming.
Honored, man.
What is the best advice that you've ever received throughout your life and that has kind of kept you going? Just not even just for real estate. It can be for real estate, but just, something that has stuck with you that you're like, man, I really think that this is kind of what has been the theme of my life type, What do you think that is?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. So for me, it's success, every failure is because of you. Meaning it all starts and ends with me, right? So for a long time, and I think there's a lot of people that could relate to this, it's easy to blame external factors and your circumstances. And you can relate to this with what you've been through. It would have been so easy for you to throw in the towel and be like, well, I just got dealt a really crap hand. So
point the finger.
Nothing better. There's nothing better for me. I'm just going to roll over, basically. Or you can do the exact opposite of that and realize that if I put the work in, if I better myself every day, surround myself with the people that I need to surround myself with, stay consistent, do the work when I don't want to, especially on the days that you don't want to. And I think if you can understand that when you have a quote unquote bad day, or you have a day where you wake up and you don't feel like running, or you don't feel like working out or reaching out to your leads or whatever it is, that's your opportunity to grow. Those days where you do it anyway is when you get better. Not on the days that you feel like it. Those are good, right? You're going to be in a great mood. But ultimately, seek out those days where you're struggling and kill it anyway. You will never feel more fulfilled than at the end of that day where you're like, you know what, I really didn't want to do it, but I did it. So that for me was the best piece of advice I've ever been given. And it was actually when I was at the gym. It was one of my first managers that brought me on as a trainer, and he told me that. I was just a young kid trying to soak up everything I could, but that stuck with me.
Your success and your failures are all because of you.
Yeah, nothing else.
That. Man, thanks so much for coming on. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so Instagram, Facebook, just Taylor Zen Realty.
And they're only going to go there if you're going to actually start posting some stuff.
Yeah, you got me. You're going to hold me accountable to that.
Come on. Bro, thanks so much for coming. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.